Hi everyone, I am absolutely delighted to be joined by Africa's #1 darts player, the world number 32, Devon Petersen. Devon, thank you very much for joining me.
Cheers, Andrew, and thanks for that introduction as well. I'm happy to be on your interview today, and hopefully we can get down and dirty and kind of get a good interview.
There's been the first Pro Tour events of the year. How are you feeling at the moment?
I think it's this season was slightly different. I mean, we had after the Worlds, a lot of the players, if you weren't in the top 24, you had an extra few weeks off after the Masters. And kind of going into the new series, it was for me. It felt like I was still a bit rusty, even though I put in all the time and effort. So practice form is great. I think it's just playing rhythm that I need to kind of get back into kind of swing. But yeah, I did okay this last event, and I think that the likes of like Johnny Clayton still carrying on from his winning form, Joe Cullen as well, and then we saw Barney kind of lift the trophy as well. So yeah, I think this was kind of a mixed bag for me personally, but I think that it also shows how well rounded the PDC and the ranking is.
The Super Series format's a brand new format for this year, which saw 4 back-to-back events. How was that to compete in?
I think it's obviously similar to the different series we had last year. I mean, coming back from after having the pandemic and the lockdown, PDC obviously arranged like the summer series, autumn series, winter series, and I think that it worked so well that they kind of put it in place this season so that we could get as many dart events on in a smaller block, and that will mean that players will be able to compete and continue on the tour as well and compete for the tour card. But I think that it works really well, and it will free up time in the future, obviously. And yeah, I think the PDC have kind of, this has been a happy accident, but I think that for the future as well, it's great because you kind of, if you look at the 2-day tour that we used to have, the Saturday Sunday event, you literally get there Friday, you play on the Saturday. If you don't do well, the Sunday becomes a kind of almost like a pressure game anyways, because you under pressure anyways playing on the tour. So that becomes a pressure game, and then you go back home. Whereas this 4 days, you can play yourself into form in a sense and kind of push a lot harder, which I think is a great thing, and I hope that the series continues.
Yeah, obviously you mentioned the old format of the Saturday Sunday. Is this new format something you hope stays past? So when you get out the pandemic and a bit of normality comes back, is this format something you would like to see stay?
Yeah, no doubt. I think it's important to obviously note that the season is quite cramped as well. So having by the end of the 3 series that they've set up, we would now have had potentially 12 events. And 12 events generally happens over 6 weekends. This will be over kind of 3 slots. And it opens up time for Europeans in the future, more exhibitions, where we don't have to be working back to back to back and having no break. So yeah, I think it's a happy accident, but it balances out and it helps players find better form, and it also inspires a lot of other players coming over and having that opportunity to actually achieve and not be under pressure. You only have 2 days to perform, and then if you don't, you come back next week, and then yeah, sometimes it can be a bad thing though. If you're not in form and you lose on the first day, it kind of can trail you, but it has the positive effect if you win on the first day. So yeah, I think I'm hoping that the series continues, and I hope that it's an adjustable it's an adaptation that the PDC takes to the future.
Your best run last week came on the 3rd day to the last 16, but you also got to the last 32, the 3rd round on 2 other days. Did you come away from Bolton feeling pleased with your 4 days?
Yeah, I think I obviously set out targets for myself, and I think performance-wise, I wasn't at the best. I was more sporadic, inconsistencies in different games, between games. But I know that a lot of it is down to just kind of getting used to the staying mentally composed in games and kind of making sure that the technique is correct and all of these things, and obviously it upgrades on my equipment, so making sure those are kind of flying right. So for the first event, I'm quite pleased. Most consistent performance I've had over a 4-day period. since and especially at the start of the season as well. So since probably becoming a pro. So yeah, I think it's good signs for me, and it's not that you're gonna panic if you lose one game, or if you're losing in the last 16 or the last 32, or just how you play. It's just taking that stride, just in your stride, and kind of working towards probably back end of the season, where you're playing a lot more majors, and that's where you ultimately want to be bursting into form.
Of course, you equaled your best run in the World Championship at the tournament just gone, to the fourth round. Obviously, you lost against Gary in that fourth round, but were you coming away from that World Championship, your 8th World Championship, also pleased that you've got that little bit of progression in the tournament?
Yeah, I think the last 16 for me, I was chatting to Wayne about it, and saying that this season the last 16 felt not failure like, but I think that my target was quarterfinals, semifinals. But I know that fatigue definitely got me. My injury, not injury, but probably just because of the amount of darts that we were playing, and the way in which my throw was changing. I kind of almost felt like it was just a little too much in a sense, and you needed an extra break. So yeah, I think, but performing like that was great, and obviously reaching the last 16 is always fantastic. But I think now what we're looking at is more latter stages, and it's just probably the standard and the progression of my game. So yeah, I think losing to Gary Anderson obviously is a top quality player. I didn't play my best against him, and he capitalized like any of us would. If he didn't play his best against me, I would have capitalized against him as well. So yeah, I think if you look in hindsight, if you told me at the beginning of the year you're losing the last 16 of the Worlds, I'd have snapped your arm off. Come back to that. It's just kind of, yeah, the last 16 was great, and hopefully this season I can better a lot of my major event kind of pushes that I had last season.
It was also the first time 2 South African players competed in a World Championship. You must have been really proud to see that.
Yeah, Cameron. I mean, Cameron performed really well. He got a bye in the due to the COVID test, positive test of 2 players. But yeah, I think Cameron showed some real grit, and remember, it's quite nervy anyways to play on the major stage, and then to play within the pandemic where there's no crowds that can actually help you and boost you. It was challenging, but he was excited, and I think he prepared well, and I think that just seeing that there was another South African other than Devon Petersen, it was fantastic, because it shows that there's progression in the country and on the continent, which means that there'll be more Africans coming through to Q School and playing and participating in World Cups and World Championships, and hopefully competing on the Pro Tour. So it's a step in the right direction, and it's definitely a statement of intent for the future.
Having experienced that big stage event, what do you feel Cameron could go on to achieve in darts now?
I think I know Cameron personally, and I've seen his growth over the years. I know his family very personally as well. So it's one of those things where he's a capable player, and surely one of those players that can perform on any stage. The thing is committing and coming over, and I know that he stayed here up and until the Q School that was generally scheduled for the first week in Jan or second week in Jan. But then obviously the lockdown was going to threaten to hold him here for longer, and we didn't kind of know where he was going to be. But he's definitely committing to the tour, I think, next season, and he'll be here for the Q School. So yeah, I think once he commits over and he stays over here and competes, I think that rubbing shoulders with top players and kind of that breeds a certain kind of success and positivity as well, and also lifts your game, because you'll know exactly what you'll need to kind of push in a sense to achieve results. So I think that Cameron could definitely be one of the he'll be another African player on the tour in the future, definitely.
It is a big step for players to come over here from South Africa, from Africa as a continent. But are you hoping that in the coming years that is something that could be more common?
Yeah, no doubt. I think just from an economic perspective, I mean the rand value versus the pound, that already kind of throws you out, and kind of you need to be well prepared for coming over here to compete, because once you compete, it's kind of, you get paid as you play in a sense, and you have to perform or pay as you perform. So if you're not earning anything on the tour, it becomes a struggle in a sense. And mentally, that, besides being away from your home, besides being on your own in a different country, it's the hardest thing when you're not winning and you start worrying about finances, and yeah, it becomes a challenge. So yeah, I think that for the future, once another player comes over instead of myself, because I've been here a lone ranger in a sense for a while, and I think that once somebody else sees, okay, somebody like the likes of Cameron Carolison can do it as well, it will inspire loads more Africans to come over and kind of attempt the tour.
You've said many times about the talent that's in Africa in darts. Do you feel we could see something like an African tour in the future?
Yeah, it's been part and parcel of kind of the development that I've put in place personally in South Africa, and also launching the hoping to launch the academy this year. Pandemic obviously keeping us behind with that, but I think that the talent, there's the likes of Mercy Masanda, one of the, he's been playing it really well on online darts, and I know that that's a new feature within the darting community, but he's been a shining light in that, and loads of players like Simon Whitlock and even Keith Brisby coming over to me and finding out who is Mercy Masanda. So players are making a name on the online scene, and I think that from a talent perspective, an African tour would definitely help them, but I feel as though it might also make them a bit more lazy or more reluctant to commit, because they have something in South Africa like the tour. But I think that it would definitely develop their skills and make them want to attempt to play on the pro tour. So yeah, it's always been in our plans, but like all countries have sport politics, and we have that as well in South Africa. So it's something that we're going to have to get over, but yeah, we're smoothing it still out, and we only in its infancy at this point in time. So yeah, it's still a long way to go, but yeah, we'll still pursue the African tour for the future.
Yeah, talk to me about, you just mentioned the academy there that you're planning on setting up. Obviously, COVID's halted that a little bit. What is it? What are you hoping to achieve with that?
So the academy is going to be called the Devon Petersen Academy, and it's in association with the JDC. The JDC have been doing phenomenal things. Like, I remember when Steve Brown initially set it up, and it's now grown into a global junior darts corporation, where the academy set up and the platform is just one of those things that it gives you the platform to become a professional, and actually a star professional. Like, you look like the likes of Bradley Brooks winning the world youth champs last year. You got King Barry as well coming through the JDC. You got John Brown, Steve Brown's son, now playing in the PDC tour and doing really well in his first weekend. So the JDC have a great track record with regards to developing young players, and the systems and the applications that they have, it's tried and tested. So it's definitely something that we needed to partner up with, and that's what we're basically going to do. Going to introduce it to schools at the first instance, because making the game more accessible to players, even though the game is so accessible, but it's not that big for South Africans or Africans as a whole, in a sense, because darts is still seen as a pub sport, for example. So not a pub, but a garage sport, basically. So yeah, it's just kind of plodding away and making sure that they see the sport forward to be more professional than anything else.
How do you feel you can change people's mentality of being that just a garage sport, obviously pub sport, it was known as here in the UK? How do you feel you can change people's mentality and realise that it is a professional sport, and people could go down the lines of following in your footsteps?
I think now, with me obviously winning the German championships last season and performing and rising up the ranks, I think Africa needed a profile player. I've been here for a while. I've kind of grown slowly but surely, but my progression last year was something that kind of made everybody's ears peak up a bit and kind of take note. And I think that's now helped the profile of the sport, as well as how people view the sport. So yeah, I think it steps in the right direction, and I think that now the next step is once the academy is launched, we'll then get more kids to travel and compete and show exactly the talent that we do have, and this will then slowly but surely bring people closer to the game and expand the game across the continent.
Yeah, back in September, you become the first African player, the first South African player to win a PDC title at the German Darts Championship. Talk to me about what that meant to you after such a long journey.
It's all about the grind. It was just the process, just trusting it. Like there was times where I thought to myself, is this what I'm going to want to do? I'm not getting the major success that I wanted, but I think it's just human nature and human greed in a sense, because you want all of it at once, and knowing that you still have to progress. So yeah, like every journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step, and that's what I was kind of getting to, is just taking that step every day, working on my game, working with the likes of Wayne Mardell, Colin Lloyd, Phil Taylor, just including different people into different strategies, people's experiences. Yeah, and then you've got the likes of Joe Cullen as well, influencing how I'm playing as from a confident perspective, because I'm seeing him progress, and just the way in which he's doing it, and the mentality, because we share so much time together. It was a culmination of different emotions, and kind of just not expected in a sense, but it was part of the process, because I was getting to latter stages, playing top averages all the time up and until that time. And once I got to that final, it was the second final that I got to. I lost to Gezi Price in a player championship final. That final just felt slightly different, and I was a lot more composed. It was not like, oh, this is new. It was the second bite of the apple, if you must call it that. So I was really comfortable, and I think that winning that was almost as if it was a tick box for me, as in what you believe. It's true that you can. It's true that you can actually believe it, for the simple reason is that now you have that trophy that says you were champion. Like before, I used to say, I'm working hard, I'm playing well, but the results are not showing. But I know that my practice form was great, and it's just my game form that kind of not lacked, but I think I needed to find the balance, and I did. And once I won it, it was almost like it was almost like your brain kind of switched on and went, you can win more now. You can win more. So yeah, I think it's probably one of the greatest achievements within the sport for me. Not just the title, but almost as if the reward at the end of the journey, or not the end of the journey, but the journey that I'm on it's a fantastic achievement for me.
In that event as well, you come through a last leg decider earlier in the tournament. Was there a belief all the way through that you could go on to win that? Did you thoroughly believe that you could go all the way and finally get your first title?
The Euro, I will be honest, the Euro Championships, I always went with a mentality of I want to win. Because I know that it's second to a major in a sense. And when I say second, I mean as in because it's a stage event and it's in Europe. But when I remember going there, and I was just thinking, I qualified for 2 Euro events and there's only going to be 4. So my focus is to get into the finals of the European Championships. I remember when I played against Jeffrey de Swaan, I just wanted to get over the line. When I played against Gerwin Price, I was giving him loads of respect in the beginning, and being 5-1 down, I realized very quickly that your dream could end very quickly, and found the composure that I had in practice on the stage. And I think that win coming from behind kind of gave me a lot more confidence than I thought about. Like me thinking about it in retrospect now, it gave me a lot more confidence to actually believe in my ability, because coming from 5-1 down behind against a top class player like Gerwin Price and winning the game is an absolute phenomenal feat, and not just for me, for anybody. I mean, it's like he doesn't give you any chances. He's relentless. He's quality. World #1 now as well, and obviously world champ. So yeah, I think that was the game that kind of flipped it for me and my turning point mentally.
As well, you averaged over 100 in the tournament. Fantastic for anybody. Did the hard work that you've put in the build up to that tournament, did that reflect in that German Darts Championship?
I think it's just the hard work in my career that reflected that. Like the last 2-3 years have been kind of where I was pushing probably the hardest, because that's where I started kind of seeking advice from Wayne Mardell, from a technical kind of aspect of the game, making sure that my throw and my methods are correct, and it's been a hard grind. Like you're working on your game 4 hours a day or 5 hours a day. You need to kind of, it's just trusting the process, and that that result was all of that, just trusting the process and making sure that you get in what you want at the end of the day. And yeah, I think it's a lot of focus and kind of just having the support. The support structures are massive as well, because when you're not doing your best, you still need somebody to say you can still do it, we still believe in you. Those are the major points of becoming successful in the sport.
Having that first title as well, that must give you a huge amount of confidence, even 5-6 months down the line, that you can go on and get a second, a third, even this year.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, every tournament you play in, I feel as though I could win it because of my practice, like I say, my practice form. And I go on about practice form because it's the one thing that I do the most is practice. So I know that working hard, it's not a question of if, but a more question of when. And I know that it's just a turning point or a click, and it will be completely back to kind of throwing ton averages again. And I know that, like the first title, like you said, the first one is the one. It's the first. It's almost breaking the ceiling in a sense, and just going, sky's the limit now. And yeah, my goals, like people always ask, so what's your new aspirations? What's your goals? And I'm always the one that says that I definitely want to be a world champ, and that's no doubt about it. And I'll always strive to be that. Yeah, but winning a major is fantastic, and this weekend is an opportunity. I mean, I'm coming in the fourth round, and that kind of gives you a slight advantage because you don't have to come through 3 rounds previously with a hard slog. But the quality of players in there, I mean, you're going to have to be slogging. If you're going to win this major, it's going to be one of the toughest majors because of the kind of the level that's being kind of shown on tour as well. So yeah, I think majors are in close reach now. I just need to close my hand. Before it was a far stretch, and I feel like you said, it's number 2 or 3 is very close behind.
You just touched upon the UK Open there. Gets underway on Friday. A competition you reached the quarterfinals in back in 2015. What are you hoping to achieve this weekend? Because you mentioned you've got a little bit of an advantage starting from round 4. So what do you believe you can go on and achieve this weekend?
My goal is to win, definitely win, perform. I've put some things right in my game, and I'm hoping that it comes through this weekend, or I'm trusting that it will come through this weekend. Yeah, I think first goal is to obviously make Sunday, and second goal is when you make Sunday, kind of capitalize and win it. So yeah, there's always a two-part kind of goal or setup. So yeah, just make Sunday, and once you make Sunday, then you can go on and win it.
The format of the UK Open as well is pretty unique. Is it a competition that you guys enjoy playing in?
Yeah, it kind of creates an excitement because, I mean, if you number one if you world number 1 and you play, you kind of immediately kind of slotted in with Gezi Price, and I'm number 32, so I'll immediately know exactly where I am. But this time around, I mean, MVG could face Devon Price in the first round, and those big guys can eliminate each other immediately, the top tier boys, and then you come through and not playing players like that, and playing players that you find yourself in a better position against, where you're not immediately up against the fight. But like I said earlier, the quality of the players now, it's like playing anybody. I mean, the percentage of quality is not that great. The ranking might be kind of massive, but the quality is a fine line between great and good these days. And yeah, I think it's a great advantage, but it's an advantage you still have to take. So yeah, it's gonna be an entertaining one though, because the draw itself is one that I remember when the crowds were there. When they do the live draws and you get a tough draw, they erupt and just lose their mind. Now you won't have that ultimately, but it's still, for the players, it's still a bit of more butterflies than normal.
With the pandemic, it's been a year like no other. There will be no fans in Milton Keynes this weekend. Do you think that'll make it a little bit different than what it normally is?
100%. It's had an effect on how you mentally prepare the game. It's had an effect on how you approach games. Synthetic crowds, all of these things have a major role to play. And this is testament to the different major winners we've had this last season. I mean, previously people say, yeah, but if the crowds were there, would they have won it? We won't know. But the level now, certainly at this stage now, has increased with, I'm not saying they're playing a lot better, but I'm saying the pool of players are playing a lot better now than they did previously. Whereas you could probably pick 3 or 4 winners. Now, kind of you could pick about 16, 17 that could win depending on the run they get. So yeah, I think it definitely does change. It changes the way in which you approach a game and your mentality and all of these things. But it does enhance and players that can actually just get down to business, kind of prosper in these situations, and players that need the crowd in a sense to give them that urge and boost and stuff like that. They tend to struggle. So yeah, I don't. It definitely has an impact if that's your question. But yeah, impact could be positive or negative.
And that's why it's called the FA Cup of Darts as well, because as you just said, MVG could face Gerwyn Price in round 4, and then that's one of the big boys gone. So is it all about the luck of the draw in this sort of competition?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, back end of the tournament, if you're there on Sunday and you've not played a top name, like a top 10 player, you kind of almost fancy your chances in a sense, depending on how your form is and how your game is, and it just kind of the chances that players are taking. And yeah, I think it definitely stems to luck of the draw, and that's what it is. I mean, in the end, I mean, it's for example, if Liverpool were to get to the final of the FA Cup by playing a championship team every single time, it's an easier out than playing Premier League teams every week in, week out, basically in the FA Cup. So yeah, I think it definitely stems to luck of the draw, but it does create an excitement.
And it is the first major of the PDC Tour this year. Everybody's going to be up for it, aren't they? That they're going to be vying for that title.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Pro Tour this past weekend, and you see players that are performing, like the likes of Joe Cullen, Johnny Clayton. You had Damon Hete in the final as well. Gordon Mathis played well. Christopher Ratajski, Jose de Souza didn't kick off on a great start yet. But you got Barney also winning a title, so you'll feel confident going in. You had Callan Ritz, a young player, also coming in. So there's loads of players that are, some of the players that haven't kicked on this first event or the first series will want to put that right in the major, because a major just has a different kind of vibration to it. But I think that players that have been playing well in this last series, they'll take that confidence and kind of put it in and hope to carry it on into a major, and it might be major success for them. So yeah, I think two different scenarios for two different players, and I think that it's still going to be entertaining. It's still going to be great. PDC is going to put on an amazing show, and the players will just play their part. So it's going to be exciting this weekend.
The 4 winners at the Players' Championship, you had Joe Cullen and Johnny Clayton, who go into the UK Open in fine form. You had Barney coming back and winning his first PDC title since 2013, and young Callan Ritz, who actually lives just up the road from me here.
Yeah.
And he won his first title as well. So it just shows that no matter what ranking you are, if you're not on your game, you will be beaten, won't you? But
no doubt. I mean,
in general, in players, if they're not on their game, they will be beaten by someone who might be 90th in the ranking or 70th in the ranking.
Correct, and that's where I said that the margin now from good and great is very thin. And when I say good and great, I mean as in, if you look at the rankings and you go, I saw a post early on is the top three in the world, and if you honestly say, are the top 3 players playing at their best? I don't think so. So ultimately, before, I mean, the likes of when Phil Taylor, Adrian Lewis, all of these top players were playing at their peak, there were a handful of players that could win tournaments. Now you've got different players coming from different rankings that can win it. So it just shows you how more how the sport has developed and just progressed to another level. And you're looking at players that are like in the rank 90 can also throw a ton average. Do you know what I mean? And consistently play at that high level. Not maybe week in and week out, but on a day they can do that. So yeah, I think it's a different approach this season, and like last season, and I think that it's been amazing for players. I think everybody's just more switched on these days, and the players that aren't switched on, I mean, they've come to realize that they need to, because it could be you could go back to Q school and kind of find yourself fighting for the tour card again.
And that's something that you almost had to do. You almost lost your tour card back in 2018. When that happened, did that give you a little bit of a kick to go on it and put more hours in on the practice board, into realize just how competitive the field actually is?
I've been putting the hours in before that. The thing that I struggled with was technique. So making the technique as repeatable as possible. So replicating the same technique so that you get the same outcome. And with the technique that I had, it wasn't not that it wasn't possible, but the margins of error were massive, and I needed to change that. And this is what I say, when Wayne Martin kind of helped me with that. And leading up to that, I had my worst season in the PDC that I can remember. And once I got to the Worlds, at that time, I've been working with Wayne for, I think it was 2 months, and I used to practice like probably 6 hours a day, every day, trying to get the technique right. And in the end, it was probably that 2 month sacrifice that actually made me hold on to my tour card when I qualified and kind of played. And getting to Ian White at that time, he was #1 in the Players' Championship. He was leading me 2-0. I still had the fight, and in the end, just pushing through and winning and getting to the last 16. If you told me that last 16 was going to give me a different kind of outlook in the years to come, I'd have snapped your arm off, I'd have done whatever you needed me to do, you know what I mean? But yeah, I think that was the turning point in my career, is that 2-0 against Ian White down and kind of pushing in. And the like, people will hear in interviews, they always ask me about Wayne Mardle, but the impact that Wayne Mardle has had on my career by assisting me with my throw is massive, is monumental, is almost career saving. So it still takes me to do the effort and the practice, but just his experience and the knowledge that he gave me regarding the throw, that was fantastic. And yeah, like you said, in 2018, it could have changed, and we're talking about 2021, and I'm top 32 now. So it's going good, and long may continue.
Yeah, you've gone on from that moment to establish yourself as a top 32 player in the world. So those changes that you made, looking back, you must be absolutely delighted you took it upon yourself, and obviously Wayne's help to do that, because you've gone on to achieve your first title. You're a top 32 player, and obviously you're going into this year looking to potentially win a major.
True, and that's what it is, though. I mean, it all comes part of trusting the process, but also making the present time you're giving in your best, basically every single moment that you possibly have. So yeah, I think there's a whole host of things, but obviously bottom line is definitely down to technique. And you look at it now in hindsight, and you go, this is exactly where you needed to be. And it's what you've always, it's something that I always knew I should be. But just getting there is obviously the hardest part. So I'm happy that I put in the time, and I still put in the time day in, day out, because the job's not done. I want to be a world champ. I want to be in the top tier. I want to be world #1 at some point. And just to say that you're world #1 in a sport, or a world champ, I mean, it's something that will resonate with you and your legacy. And just having that opportunity to achieve that will then obviously have a ripple effect on my continent as well, and Africa and South Africa. So I do it there's a whole host of reasons why. It's not just for the financial gain, and it's knowing that if I'm doing it right, it will then open up the world to Africa through darts. And I mean, we could inspire loads of kids to obviously do this. So kind of the work ethic comes from, there's a background to it as well, and just push all the time.
That's a big thing for you as well, isn't it? Inspiring the next generation.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, that is where your legacy. I mean, you'll only have a portion of, or you'll have a chapter on this planet, and after that, it's kind of how is your chapter going to be reread? Is it going to be just something forgotten or something inspiring people for generations to come? And that's, I'd rather have the latter, and not just be forgotten and kind of just wasted my time on the planet. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think that for me is a motivating factor, and it's the one reason you kind of push so hard in the sport. I mean, you can easily get lazy in darts as well when you're performing well, but I just want to reach that tier and make sure that I know that every time that you're on the board, you're performing, you might be inspiring the next potential world champion from Africa, and who knows?
Looking ahead, it might be a little bit of a vague question, but what do you believe you can achieve in 2021? Have you set yourself any targets?
Definitely. My goals is definitely, like I said, 2-part or 3-part this season is my first goal is to definitely get to the top 16 at the end of the season, and then also win a major. And then the third part, or the cherry on top, would be is to win a world championship. So if 2021 has that kind of aspirations, it's top 16 major win as well as a world championship win. So if I get 2 out of the 3, I'm grateful. If I get all 3, I'll be over the moon.
Fantastic. Devon, really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and talk to me for this interview. And best of luck for the UK Open this weekend.
Thanks a lot, my man, and I appreciate the chat. Take care.